It offers these very simple frameworks which make people feel very comfortable about and conscious, actually, comfortable and more conscious and curious about human interaction.
It's great to welcome you, Mairi Campbell, to the first of these chats that we're recording with members of the InsideOut Musician community. And as the host of our online monthly Ceilidh, I'm sure many people will be as interested as I am to hear more about you. You're a pioneering musician whose music is rooted in personal story and cultural concerns. After studying classical viola at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, you carved out a place as one of the leaders in Scotland's traditional music scene. You've been described as a national treasure.
Sitting on the top of the roof, painting the roof, painting my roof red.
Your work pushes the boundaries with your use of free improvisation, song, and stagecraft. And you've co-written several albums of original songs with David Francis and since 2010 Dave Gray. And you're also an Interplay leader. So I wonder if we could start there. Would you be willing to just describe what Interplay is?
So Interplay is an organisation which is dedicated to drawing together aspects of ourselves that we might not consider really going together. The creative modalities that we have. So Interplay came into my life a few years ago when I was looking at how to bring people together in the community, in the workshops that I was setting up. And so what it does is it offers these very simple frameworks which make people feel very comfortable about and conscious, actually, comfortable and more conscious and curious about human interaction and our ability to become expressive. And so what I love about Interplay is it opens up this Pandora's box, if that's the right word, I'm not sure, positive stuff and the negative stuff around everything that we, about ourselves and how we walk in the world. And using expressive modalities to learn about that within ourselves. So I've just thought it's just like gold meeting with Interplay. I have definitely angled it towards being curious about, one, social engineering, how to bring people together more intimately, more quickly. And social engineering is that's basically what I'm interested in these days in a way, through the arts. And just, that uniqueness of each individual that Interplay gives us. Like, it's completely people-led, it's completely individual-led. In fact, it really suits me because I'm very much kind of an individualist in a way. I'm definitely that. And I recently learnt on the Enneagram, I'm a 4, which is the individual. Right. So basically, I'm interested in that. And Interplay offers me lots of information around that, of me and others, and seeing that within that uniqueness, there is a sort of real universality. And I've loved discovering that.
Can you just say a little bit more about what you mean by social engineering and why that's important to you?
Well, I think the way people come together, it's always been an interest of mine to do things there where people are doing stuff in groups, whether it's playing at a wedding band or playing for Ceilidh's. Classes have always interested me, how to make a class into a community. And then Campbell's Ceilidh, which is like bringing together a community again. And right from since I was very young, as a little child, I always was a bit like that, actually. I went to the music library and bought home a piece that I wanted all my sisters to play together, Elgar's Serenade for Strings. And I set that up when I was 11, So, and then I had a meeting with my family, where I set these questions, a bit like you're setting questions now, but when I was 18, I set questions for all of us to have a family meeting and talk about our common things, but each you'd have a time to talk about it. So, so it'd be like talk about the home we lived in, that we grew up in, or talk about Granny, or talk about Sundays, or talk about church, and everybody had a completely unique take on it. And that was within my own immediate family.
So it's a drive, is it, to enable people to become a little bit closer in their connections with each other?
Maybe to be seen. Maybe there's something about being seen and being appreciated for who you are as a result of that. And I think that links into my cultural concerns in Scotland, where I feel there's a lot of lack of confidence in our creative in our voices, actually, up here. People are very quick to kind of put you down if you put your head above the pulpit. There's a strong sense, probably in the whole of the UK, but certainly I know from here, there's a strong sense of that would be we could be a much different place if there was a bit more of people just being seen and enjoyed for the, bringing that out. I think that's my work.
And this actually is an important work to do on a global scale, isn't it? With divisions in society widening and all the problems.
Yeah, I don't know where we're heading right now. It really has. I mean, my sense of it is that there's some big, powerful conglomerates or whatever they are that are kind of herding us into behaviour that I personally am finding horrifying and really challenging. And also maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay. Maybe I can trust a little bit more. It's going to be fine. People say it's going to be fine, but I just think keep burrowing down into the individual. For instance, the racial equity and transformation work that Interplay also does is essentially inviting us to hear our own voices and those voices of, say, the white community, the black community, the exploring those particular arenas of exploring. And some people are very skilled at that. I'm not particularly at the moment, but I'd like to learn more about it.
And we've come together to enable another community to grow, which has that ethos of inclusivity. At the heart of InsideOut Musician lies an intention to build a community of practice with space for sharing our stories with one another. And I'm wondering how that plays into your own work right now in your life.
Yeah, well, it definitely does. I love that you're really drawing on these stories and the story. I mean, the last 10 years I've been working with my own stories, and as I say, digging where I stand. I love that phrase, but I tell you, it's not that easy. But digging where you stand, working with what you happen to have been born into, what happened to have happened, why, and not necessarily why it happened, just what happened. And then linking that to our expressive modalities. It's as simple as that. When you get to a point that no words can describe it, throw some paint on a bit of paper, or do a dance, or sing a song, or And I want to activate that in myself. So the stories, and I find it very refreshing. It's transformative work. It is transformative work. Yeah, I think I've just been surprised by how transformative the work is when we are able to hook our own stories, or be seen, and be invited to play with that information through our expressive modalities. I know that sounds a bit sort of, but basically I'm talking about sound and movement. And the edge that I'm kind of hitting just now is really interesting because I'm going into this, I'm a bit in a retreat space at the minute. And I'm up on this wonderful island. It's a very powerful place for me, and I'm trying to let go. I'm trying to drop into what wants to come out at this point. What is asking the next bit of my story? What's it needing to become, and what am I trying to say? And it's going into the world of evocation, and it's going into the world of land and gratitude and remembering gratitude and setting up stuff for appreciation.
And I've heard you talk very powerfully about how the more you draw into the personal in terms of story and narrative, the more widely universal it can be appreciated and understood and received. Can you talk a little bit more about how the personal translates into a cultural perspective or a universal language for everybody?
Okay. So for instance, in Auld Lang Syne, in the show Auld Lang Syne, I made the show, the kind of crux of the show is when I forgot my words when I was singing to President Clinton and this really big gale. It was a true story. It's all true. And it was a horrifying experience. And I had to go into that place. I had to show up. I had to be vulnerable, but go beyond the vulnerable and make it into an art form, which is the skill. And then show up with that vulnerability. And essentially, I think the audience, it becomes universal because the audience in that moment, they go, oh my God, that could be me. Oh my God, that's my worst nightmare. And suddenly there's like a connection to me and you know, and then on Pulse, it was that journey that I took, which was going from Guildhall School of Music into being desperate to play folk music and to be desperate to be able to play Pulse, right? So my life kind of ended up going on these little journeys and stories around looking for the thing that I could learn to play with a pulse. Yeah. And the kind of naiveties that I hit around that, you know, the places I went to Mexico and went backpacking and fell in love with somebody that was becoming a priest. And I kind of, you know, and it was really sore at the time and I had to work through this stuff. And then so at the end of the show, people come and they go, oh my God, that was me. I went backpacking. I did all that. I fell in love with these guys that was completely inappropriate. And, you know, that's, I suppose, the universal thing.
So you also talk a lot about how this work of Interplay demonstrates or it reveals that people's ordinary can actually be quite extraordinary. We don't actually realise, and I think that, you know, often as artists we don't realise that what we have to offer is of value. Because to us, it's just who we are.
Yeah, our innate sound making, wisdom makers, space holders, extraordinary elemental beings that a lot of musicians are, has been slightly hijacked by the organisations around it that have tried to corral us into their organisations. And that's something I feel like orchestras. I think we've been corralled. These incredible musicians have been corralled into an orchestra. And there's an incredible shame because you're missing so much stuff in a way. Or you've been corralled into like the pop industry or an industry that suddenly wants to control you and make money out of you. And I'm just really aware of that these days. Like how many people surrounding artists are trying to control the environment that we want to exist in.
That's very interesting. I mean, it takes me actually to another question I wanted to touch on with you, because the music industry is facing enormous changes. And I wondered if you could give us some of your reflections on these and what impact you think they might be having on the cultural scene here.
Gosh. Right. Well, do you know, I think that's interesting that one of the lovely things about IOM or InsideOut Musician is that we're all coming from quite different perspectives there. So I'm not sure I can talk about, say, the orchestral scene because I've not been in it for so long, whereas you guys have got another perspective there. My feeling is possibly that we're going to have to sort of break loose, really, because, I mean, those structures that have been holding us aren't going to do that anymore. For me, my instincts are saying lean into your friends, lean into the community, lean into the people you've met, and then see if I can amplify and make my work kind of work from person to person. I've done a lot of spiritual journeying as well, and one of the things that comes back again and again with all sorts of mentors is always the changes will happen person to person. That's the only way things can change, not through institutions or governments. And that's basically what I feel I want to just try and keep my eye on that ball.
Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Yeah. Can I ask you a more general question, if I could put it this way? Why do you do what you do, and what drives you to do your work in your own unique way?
Because I'm a powerful Scottish warrioress with a mission, it seems. I mean, I don't know what drives me, except that I'm driven, as are my sisters. I mean, I was talking to them the other day. We're just an absolute... We're a powerhouse, as women, and I'm a bit like bring it on, you know. So that thing of like individualism, the future is through unique people waking up to their own, appreciating themselves, essentially, appreciating the skills of musicians and the incredible work that we have ahead of us. I feel to work if we can break out like and really make things happen in a way that we say this is going to serve the people that are around us. I mean, I had an idea this morning, which threw me, I was like, oh my God. There was one time when I was involved in an Indian collective. It was a Sahaja Yoga. We were a bit of a big community of very spiritually minded people. Lots of meditation and all that. Anyway, we had lots of Hindi ceremonies were going on in that environment. And one of the things was that once a year, we would have the women would appreciate the men. and the men would appreciate the women. Oh my God, it was so powerful. It was so old as well. And we'd make these bands and then we'd give them to a man and they became our sort of brothers. And so it was about maintaining pure relationships between men and women. Right? And that was one thing that just really blew me away. And then I went this morning and I was looking out the studio and I went, imagine if we on the Lismore had a ceremony where the women could actually sing to the men on the island and the men could then, and create the conditions for these sort of relationships to become alive again because they were. And the parameters, I just thought, I think that's what's coming. That's what I think's coming. If I've got anything to do with it, I'll be out there on the hill, hollering away, bringing all the boys. Let me tell you how brilliant you all are. I love you to bits. Now you're going to tell the women how wonderful we are. So that sort of healing man to woman. I was just like, wow. And
then when you finished with your island people, Mairi, you can head out to the city.
Well, I tell you, I think it's all going to happen at the same time. Well, the reason I'm doing Campbell Ceilidh is because I wanted to set up a structure that gave people an opportunity to, appreciate and be appreciated, which is what happens in a way. And I just felt that, again, it comes from these bits of teachings that I've sort of cobbled together. Around appreciation is the thought form that is going to get us through this time. Appreciation is of a higher frequency than a fear-based emotion. So we just have to practice putting ourselves in that frame of mind. And artists will put other people in that frame of mind, So that's the point of it, which is quite nice in a way to sort of, it's got nothing to do with like how good you are or anything. It's just, and the work is on the person that's perceiving it to do it their best, to appreciate and find what they like, look for the good, which is one of the little Interplay mantras, look for the good. Yeah. I don't know how wide away I'm going to be able to connect with people, but I do think at the moment the work I'm doing is one of the great things about it. It does feel like resonant. I'm loving making these shows and they resonate with people in a way I hadn't expected. But I should also mention the key person to this last piece of work. It's not just been Interplay, but it's been Kath Burlinson and the Authentic Artist Collective. Kath Burlinson is a theatre maker. She set up something called the Authentic Artists, 3-day retreats. And back in 2011, I went on one of these 3-day retreats, having seen my friend, Nera Ashworth, make her show. And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to be on the stage doing all that other stuff as well. And she said Kath Burlinson. So Kath I got in tow with and did a few of these courses, Authentic Artist. And then Kath's just been kind of amazing sort of holding ability and very loose as well. Sort of like she just sets up these things and moves through. And she's come here lots and we've worked together. From the beginning, I was like, this is my girl. This is going to see me through the next stage. There's work to be done with her and me. She's quite tough and she's very sharp-minded. She's very aware of getting down to that nugget of like unease or dis-ease, which is very difficult to do on your own. And I could not have done it, no way, without that, somebody with that like forensic ability to see and how to do stagecraft, bring devices in, use with different timelines. I mean, the theatrical kind of toolbox is fascinating for a musician because on the one hand, we've been on stages all our lives, but on the other hand, we've never really done it the way, we've never given ourselves permission. I certainly hadn't. But to bring a story and music and all that, and then know that the back of the stage is like the archetypal and the front of the stage is to, the everyday and it's with people. And as you go back to the stage, you can then embody stuff that's of a completely different nature that also exists within me. So to bring all those elements and that kind of shape-shifting place of the person that I am, the stage is a wonderful device. And she's given me the confidence to go on that journey. So between Kath and Interplay and my own kind of, Gala Lassie,
yeah. Well, that's wonderful.
So thank you.
That feels like
Does that feel?
To end. It's really good of you to share.
Thank you for asking, Sophie. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
And thank you for doing this too.